Hey, everybody, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your experience with us at the 2023 New England Newspaper Conference. I'm John Boquette, past president of NEMPA, the New England Newspaper and Press Association, and editor of the Newtown Bee in Connecticut. Our final awards of this event start now. Our first award is the Allan B. Rogers Editorial Award. This award recognizes the best editorial of the year in New England, and it honors the former editor of the Eagle Tribune of North Andover, Massachusetts, who died in 1964 at the age of 31. The competition is open to local subject editorials from a wide variety of newspapers in New England, regardless of circulation size and frequency of publication. So here we go. This year's winner is the Berkshire Eagle. Congratulations for taking back the 2023 Allan B. Rogers Editorial Award for the editorial Amid Clergy Abuse Case, a Chilling Attack on a Free Press. This clearly written piece chastising the Catholic Diocese in Western Massachusetts for trying to subpoena a reporter's notes, which would reveal confidential sources, delineates why such an assault on the First Amendment is dangerous. At a time when the media is derided as producing fake news, it's particularly important to show the benefits to society of an unfettered press. The stand is strong, compelling, and easily understood. The editorial goes one crucial step further in calling for legislators to adopt a shield law, as other states have, that would protect reporters' news gathering resources. Our next award is the New England First Amendment Award, and it honors the association's record of leadership on First Amendment issues. The award is presented to a New England newspaper for the exceptional quality of its reporting, editorials, commentary, or legal challenges that illuminate or uphold the First Amendment or educate the public about it. Congratulations. This year, the award goes to the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. The Telegram took on a tough battle that diverted a lot of resources in defense of the public's right to know about police misconduct. The city of Worcester dug in its heels, accustomed to a state public records scheme that historically rewarded incalcitrants, but the law changed and attorney fees were now recoverable, and the TNG pioneered in the fight to use that law to wrest open long secretive police records and to establish that non-compliance with the public records law now has consequences. The battle required courage, tenacity, and risk, and the TNG has now blazed a path that will benefit the public's First Amendment right to know what government is up to, and that will fortify other media outlets and citizens to fight these same fights. Our next and very special award is the Bob Wallack Community Journalism Award, which is named in honor of longtime New England journalist and former New England Press Association Executive Director Bob Wallack. The award recognizes an individual who has an exceptional record of commitment to community journalism, and it's presented to someone who has faithfully served the community for which they are responsible and played an active, constructive role in contributing to its quality of life, someone who truly exemplifies the ideal of a community journalist, just as Bob Wallack did. And I'm so pleased to present this year's award to a longtime friend and colleague, Wayne Braverman, managing editor of the Bedford Citizen. In his long-standing role as Master of Ceremonies for NEMPA's annual award ceremonies, Wayne Braverman has introduced scores of award winners over the past 2 decades using his acclaimed public speaking skills to a maximum effect. But as recipient of this year's Bob Wallack Community Journalism Award, Wayne finds himself in the odd position of having to relinquish the microphone, at least for now, and a rarity for such distinguished Toastmasters. And he'll have to listen while we toast his accomplishments. Much has been asked of Braverman during a remarkable career that began as a sports intern at his hometown paper, the Old Bedford Minuteman, exactly 50 years ago. Like so many of us, he experienced firsthand the corporate acquisitions, mergers, and cost cutting that reshaped the time honored business model of small, independent, often family owned community newspapers, especially here in New England. He also weathered the seismic changes unleashed by disruptive technologies, which, coupled with emerging lifestyle changes, undercut community journalism as a primary source of local news, commentary, and retail advertising dollars. But as Kathleen Benjamin and Terry Murrow's impressive nomination packet makes clear, Wayne Braverman is more than just another survivor in a post apocalyptic print media ecosystem. Through periods of both prosperity and austerity, he's been a steadfast and proven leader, teacher, problem solver, innovator, and perhaps his most valuable role, a fixer with the acumen and endurance to revitalize flagging news franchises. A visionary who refuses to wax nostalgic over better days gone by, he instead developed new pathways for traditional news outlets with shrinking budgets to remain relevant in a rapidly changing information marketplace. Notable examples include a program to recruit and train high school interns to supplement paid staff working at CNC publications. He also built bridges with community groups, schools, athletic organizations, and area churches by assisting these stakeholders in building and managing their own websites, sowing the seeds for future business partnerships. Braverman's creative energies have been equally prolific outside the realm of journalism. In addition to hosting a volunteer radio show at UMass Lowell and overseeing a creative arts camp for kids 6 through 17, he developed an award winning talk show on Bedford Cable Access TV, taught debate and public speaking skills to elementary students, and even produced a murder mystery play as a charitable fundraiser. In one of many heartfelt testimonials which accompanied the nomination, former colleague Tim Gassert, before he passed away in 2019, praised Braverman for keeping faith with what he termed journalism's sacred trust with the public, that unspoken pact which undergirds our democratic institutions and which has been stretched all too thin in recent years. More than that, however, Wayne Braverman has kept faith with those same values exemplified by the late Bob Wallack and embodied in NEMPA's Community Journalism Award. So, for this and for Wayne's unflinching optimism and incredible voice that remains a necessary and noble calling, we offer our thanks. And now let's hear a few words from Wayne.
Thank you to the people of the New England Newspaper and Press Association for this very special award. I'm honored to be receiving this award named after Bob Wallack, who I personally respected and admired during the years we worked together on the association's convention planning committee. I started in media as a freelance writer for a newspaper in Bedford. And a half century later, after serving as an editor and managing editor of many newspapers across eastern and central Massachusetts, I came home last year to serve as the managing editor of the Bedford Citizen. In the land of cliches, that would be called going full circle. I'm happy to be home working in journalism as part of this new era in the news media. When I was in college as an undergrad, my father was pushing me to become a lawyer or a politician. The average adult in the United States works 90,000 to 100,000 hours during their lifetime. By the time I was a junior in college, the thought of spending many hours as a lawyer or doing what politicians do was not for me. I actually wanted to be able to sleep at night with a clear conscience. A quote from Nelson Mandela has stuck with me throughout the years, and it's one of the guiding lights as to how I try to live my life. He said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." I wanted to do something that I felt would help people, to be of service in ways to the best I could. For me, I felt the media was a much better calling than law and politics. When I told my father that, he said, "What? You're going to be in journalism? What? You want to live in poverty? Being on the streets, just begging for money?" I never lived in poverty or felt poor at any time during my life, but I did end up on the streets. I've been doing volunteer work helping the homeless and poor people for many, many years. And I've also been out on the streets meeting people in the communities where I've served as a journalist. I figured out early in my career that community journalism is really a service. See, it's in the communities. That's where the people can make the biggest, most meaningful changes and have the biggest impact. Most of the people in this country can't change how Washington works or stop wars or make companies who are killing our planet change their ways. Most of the powerful people in this country really don't care what the average person thinks. But in our cities and towns, it's a lot more personal. And that's where real change can and does happen. That's where people really do have a lot of influence and make a big impact. In community media, we tell the stories about people, events, and organizations that would never be shared if it wasn't for what we do. Community media outlets are important and respected parts of the places where they serve. For me, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve these cities and towns. Each one of them and all the people in them that I worked with and met along the way, they were unique in their own special ways. I always found it fascinating to learn about these places and the people that were in them and see what was special about them, and also talk with them about the challenges that they were facing and find ways that we could serve them that best fit those communities. I worked with many excellent journalists and helped train about 800 amazing interns. We all went through a lot together. Many big stories, such as the terrorist attack on September 11th, 2001, the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, and there were many others. But there were also many stories that weren't as widely known to the world. But they were important to the people in the communities where they occurred. That counts. I've not only been a journalist, but I'm also a crisis counselor, something that's come in very handy during my many years in journalism. I've also been a creative arts camp director and still do work as a TV host. I'm also a guest speaker at numerous schools, churches, temples, and other places. And I've advocated for people going through many difficult situations. And now at this stage of my career, I'm doing my best to help keep community journalism alive after the failure of the large companies. I don't believe that journalism is dead. It's evolving, and that is exciting. The seeds for the next generation have been planted, and they're taking root. A new generation of journalists who care about local news and the people that we serve is evolving. It's exciting news to see what stamp they will put on our profession. But for today, I once again thank you all for this wonderful honor.
Award is the AP Sevellon Brown New England Journalist of the Year Award, which is bestowed by the New England Society of News Editors as it recognizes an individual for producing journalism of distinction in New England this past year. The award is named in honor of Sevellon Brown, the late editor and publisher of the Providence Journal Bulletin, founder of the American Press Institute, fellow of the Academy of New England Journalists, and past president and founder of the New England Associated Press News Editors Association. This year's New England Journalist of the Year is Katie Mulvaney, courts reporter for the Providence Journal. Katie is a reporter who has built a beat around people who have no voice. Every story submitted with her nomination is compelling and holds the powerful to account. We'd like to read the nomination letter submitted by her managing editor, Aaron Dion. If there's one thing Katie Mulvaney is acutely aware of, it's this. She could work all the time, nonstop, and never have enough time to bring all the stories she wants to light. So, what does she pick to work on? From court files most don't bother to look through, and sources who come forward to trust her with the worst thing that ever happened to them. It has to be powerful, and she's relentless about it. Over the course of this award period, she wrote 182 stories, many of them investigations. She wrote about allegations that the state police covered up a former lieutenant colonel's involvement in a man's death. She wrote about a woman's quest for damages after she was wrongfully convicted of killing her toddler daughter and the state's refusal to pay. She wrote about a family suing Butler Hospital after the hospital discharged their 18-year-old son against his will from a mental health treatment program, only for him to die days later from an overdose. She wrote about men dying by suicide at the adult correctional institutions and the push to end solitary confinement. She wrote about how animal tranquilizers are making Rhode Island's drug supply even more dangerous, talking to users about the lesions opening up on their arms. She writes about these stories with such heartbreaking clarity. And by the time they're published in the Providence Journal, they're no longer a case number on a court docket, an overdose stat, or a whisper. She's tracked down the interviews and found the records or the details to breathe life into each of them. But she doesn't just write the stories and move on. She makes people who wouldn't normally care, listen. People who previously did not subscribe to the Providence Journal do by the dozens to read the stories about people who otherwise would have been anonymous and forgotten. Under the pressure of so many stories to tell and so many people to make visible, she's one of the most tireless working reporters. She received a Master of Studies in Law in 2020 from Roger Williams University, so she'd have the skills to really understand the criminal justice system and the courts. She handles a heavy workload of stories at any given time, taking weeks to fully report out a storyline that could easily take another reporter months. And her fierceness is why we have so many stories of tremendous consequence to share with you, all united around the theme of giving voice to the voiceless. It's the unnamed series she's writing all the time. But if we have to narrow it down to just one to consider, please consider this one. In 2017, a defendant in a murder and dismemberment case was brought into the courthouse to conference with law enforcement and his defense team. During that meeting, against protocol, he was left alone with his girlfriend, during which time the defendant had sex. The incident was covered up until years later and kept from the family of the murder victim, who wonder now whether that cover up led to the defendant getting a short sentence. This story had it all: investigation, cover ups, scandal, and emotion, all told with respect to everyone involved. One more thing. As her editor, I want you to know she does this job as a single parent of an adopted special needs child with a tenacity that humbles me. We often credit the reporters who work 24/7 nonstop and turn their entire life over to their work. To work with someone who balances her career against the other ways her life could be impactful, who does as much as she can, both at work and outside of work, is inspirational in a way that I hope becomes more common in our industry. I can think of no one more deserving of this distinction than Katie Mulvaney. Signed, Aaron Dion, Managing Editor. So congratulations on behalf of all of us to you, Katie, this year's AP Sevellon Brown New England Journalist of the Year. And now let's hear from Katie.
I'm incredibly thrilled and honored to receive an award named after such an accomplished newspaper person. I want to thank Aaron, Lynn, and Katie for writing a nomination letter that made me blush. They are very, very kind. I've been reading about Sevellon Brown and what he represented. He stands for the very best in journalism. He built the Journal into an institution that we as reporters and editors have the privilege and obligation to carry on to our best of our abilities. I first encountered the Providence Journal while working at my first job as the managing editor of the Block Island Times. The Times, at the time, was another great paper under another great editor, the late Peter S. Wood. I would read the Sunday Journal and just became enthralled by the narrative journalism. I absolutely loved the journal writers and the tales they told. When it came time to try my hand at daily journalism, I wanted to be at the Journal, but Carol Young wouldn't have it. She told me that I needed to get started at a smaller daily. I went to the Greenwich Time, where I eventually became an assistant city editor and spent 3 years sending clips to Carol and bugging her to hire me. I finally came in as a copy editor, but soon missed being on the streets as a reporter. I applied for a reporter opening and thankfully got hired. I've never looked back and got started covering Seekonk, a surprisingly lively beat where the owner of Cheater's Strip Club lived and always stirred things up. I moved to Newport to South Kingstown before landing on the court beat. I love covering the courts because it combines legal intricacies and the rule of law with deeply human stories. It allows me to explore what makes people tick for good and for bad. I've learned there is rarely black or white, but shades of gray. I had the good fortune of being surrounded in the newsroom by some of the greats. I sat next to Bill Malinowski, Tracy Breton, and Mike Stanton, and witnessed all the skill they brought to the job. Bill, who received this same honor in 2014, could talk to anyone and told me all the Rhode Island tales. We are fortunate to be in a state that is a character unto itself, with a richness that keeps on giving to reporters. The paper has been through a lot of changes through the years, and we've watched some really good reporters go or retire, and we've even lost a few. Through it all, I have remained thankful that I love my work. It's an honor and a privilege to do such an important job day after day. We get to document history, cast light into darkness, hold leaders accountable, and reveal humanity by giving people a voice. People entrust us to tell their stories. It takes courage to be a good reporter. The media gets beaten up a lot these days, but to all the editors and reporters out there, never lose sight of the importance of your work and all the fun we get to have. Thank you again for this incredible honor.
Well, we've really gotten to the end of our conference now, and last but not least, we will present you with the New England Newspapers of the Year and Distinguished Runners-Up. These awards are presented in 8 circulation categories, and each award will start with those distinguished papers and will conclude with the announcement of the award for Newspaper of the Year. Our first category is specialty publications, and we congratulate our distinguished publications, New Boston Beacon of New Boston, New Hampshire, and Worcester Magazine of Worcester, Massachusetts. And now hearty congratulations to the Specialty Publications Newspaper of the Year. It's a tie between the Providence Business News of Providence, Rhode Island, and 7 Days in Burlington, Vermont. Our next category is Weekly Newspapers, Small Circulation Division, with our distinguished newspapers being the Milton Times of Milton, Massachusetts, and the St. Albans Messenger of St. Albans, Vermont. But our newspaper of the year in this category for weeklies is one that I get, the Vermont Standard of Woodstock, Vermont. Congratulations. Our next category is weekly newspapers, large circulation division. And we've got 3 distinguished papers as runner-ups this year: the Mount Desert Islander of Bar Harbor, Maine, the Martha's Vineyard Times of Vineyard Haven, Massachusetts, and the Ellsworth American of Ellsworth, Maine. And our newspaper of the year in the large circulation weekly category is the Inquirer and Mirror on Nantucket, Massachusetts. Our next category is daily newspapers, small circulation division. Our distinguished papers in this category are the Keene Sentinel up in Keene, New Hampshire, and the Record Journal down here in Meriden, Connecticut. But our newspaper of the year award in the small circulation daily division is going right up Route 91 to Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Congratulations, Berkshire Eagle. Our next category is for daily newspapers in the mid-size circulation division. And we've got two distinguished papers in this category, the Recorder of Greenfield, Massachusetts, and the Daily Hampshire Gazette of Northampton, Massachusetts. But in this category, the newspaper of the year goes south into Connecticut. Congratulations to the Day of New London. Next are awards for daily newspapers in the large circulation division. Our distinguished newspapers this year are the Republican of Springfield, Massachusetts, and the Telegram and Gazette of Worcester, Massachusetts. But this year, our newspaper of the year is also down in Connecticut in the large circulation division, and my hometown newspaper, the Republican American of Waterbury, Connecticut. Congratulations. Our next category is for Sunday newspapers in the small circulation division. Congratulations to the distinguished newspapers in this category, the Berkshire Eagle of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and the Day of New London, Connecticut. But in the Sunday newspaper small circ division, the newspaper of the year is the Concord Monitor of Concord, New Hampshire. And finally, Sunday newspapers in the large circulation division. The distinguished newspapers in this category are the Sunday Republican of Springfield, Massachusetts, and the New Hampshire Sunday News. But once again, my hometown newspaper that I started carrying when I was 10 years old is the Republican American of Waterbury, Connecticut, the Sunday newspaper of the year. Congratulations to all of our distinguished newspapers, all of our newspapers of the year, their staffs, their publishers, and their readers for keeping them all alive. My name is John Boquette, and it's been a pleasure to be with you here at the 2023 New England Newspaper Conference. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the spring.